Welcome to the last lesson of this first beginner series. We're really close to looking at some fun songs to play now, but we've just got one more thing to look at, which is accents. Accents are essentially louder strums that you can throw in to emphasize different beats within your strumming patterns to give your rhythm a little bit more character and a little bit more groove. Now, for the sake of simplicity in this lesson, we're just going to be doing down strums and we're just going to be doing eighth notes to help you get used to it. So let's dive in and take a look. So remember, in eighth note land, we're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're going to aim to accent beats 1 and 3. Now, rather than just trying to strum really loudly on 1 and 3, it can be much better to create accents by actually making all your other strums sound a little bit smaller. So on your non-accented strums, you should try and just hit the bottom few strings like you can see here. Now I'm going to use an E major chord to demonstrate these accent patterns because it uses all 6 strings, so you can really hear the difference between the accented and non-accented strums. So if we get the E chord ready, remember we're going to be accenting beats 1 and 3, so that's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and along to a click, it's going to sound like this. For the second pattern, we're going to accent all the numbered beats and the ands are going to be non-accented. So the emphasis is going to have an on-off kind of feel. So with the E chord, it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and with the click. So we're going to make things a little bit more interesting now, because with pattern 3 we're going to turn it on its head and accent just the off beats. So it's going to have an off on type feel with the emphasis, and with the E chord that'll sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Pretty good for like a Johnny Cash type sound, this one. And with a click, it'll sound like this. On to pattern 4 now, and this is a bit of an important one because we're going to accent something called the backbeat. Now in music, the backbeat lands on beats 2 and 4, and this is normally where the snare drum hits in a drum beat, so there's normally quite a lot of natural emphasis on these beats, and you'll probably find that you naturally emphasize it in your strumming without thinking, which is definitely a good thing. So with our E major chord, it's going to sound like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and along to a click. We'll definitely be looking at some songs that use backbeat accents in the next series, so definitely worth getting your head around that pattern, and the same goes for this next pattern. This is going to be the last one we look at today. Again, it's a super popular pattern. It's a really good driving rhythm that adds a lot of energy to tracks. It's a little bit more complicated than the other ones, so I'm going to try and explain it as best I can. So for pattern 5, we're going to be accenting beat 1, the and of 2, and beat 4. Now I think the reason this one feels a little bit more difficult is because the accent is going from being on the beat to off the beat, but it's something you can definitely get used to. Now a good little cheat for getting this one right is to actually count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It wouldn't be correct in terms of like musical counting, but if it helps you, then it's worth doing anyway. A really good example of this one used in popular music is the song Best of You by the Foo Fighters, which goes like this. So you can hear those accents. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And along along to a click. So there's a bit of an introduction to accents. Hopefully you can see after the last few lessons that when you combine different types of strumming patterns and different accent patterns, it just opens up a whole world of opportunities when it comes to rhythm really. And we've barely scratched the surface in these lessons, so I'm sure you'll continue to learn a lot more in the song lessons coming next. Remember though, you should always try and just feel the rhythm rather than have to count it. You might have to count it at first just to get used to it, but your goal should be really just to feel the groove of the song and let it kind of flow through you and enjoy the experience of playing. Remember, there are a bunch of extra resources that you can download from my Patreon page via the link in the description. That includes diagrams for all the rhythm patterns that we've looked at, all the chord diagrams, backing tracks, things like my beginner booklet which has a bunch of extra info, so I definitely appreciate you checking that out. It would be a great way to support these lessons and enable me to make more of them if you enjoy them and find them helpful. On that note, remember the lessons are all nice and organised on my YouTube channel page, so feel free to subscribe if you want to follow along, and you're finally at the point where you're ready to start learning songs, so I'll see you in the next series where we start to learn our first proper songs, which hopefully is going to be a lot of fun for you.